Hi and welcome to my first video. So just to introduce myself, I'm Tim Castle. I am a negotiator. I'm also a success coach. So I'm also a published author. So a few different things there for you to digest, but really at the bottom of it all, I am someone who understands how to open closed doors. So throughout my life and through some of my personal life experiences, I've come across situations where I've had to use more than just winging it to get what I wanted. And that's come down to various things like influence, but also the ability to work collaboratively with other people. So very early on in my career, I was lucky enough to join an organization that was growing rapidly. And through that, we did a lot of negotiations. So I got a first-hand look at how professionals negotiate in multiple business situations across the board, number of deals up to tens of millions of dollars, and I was only 23 at the time, and I got a front row seat at this. I then obviously became deeply immersed in negotiations and was handling negotiations myself. Throughout then, I've been involved in sales and business development. That's where I find my niche. But outside of that, I also obviously have a personal life, and I've taken that to the next level in terms of negotiation and just the certain things that I can achieve in my personal life, and negotiation has allowed me to achieve. So I just want to talk today around job interviews and salary negotiations, specifically because often this is what I get asked about first. When people find out that I am a negotiator, I've written a book on negotiation called The Art of Negotiation. The first thing they want to know is, how can I negotiate a better job offer or a better and more successful outcome during an interview? And the thing I sort of say to them is, like, are you going into this to absolutely get the maximum salary that's on the table? Or are you going to flip your kind of conversation in your own head and look at this about getting your worth and your value that you are appropriately needed? So I think that's the first question you've got to think about. Is it's not about getting the maximum value in terms of dollars out of this job role that this company can pay. The switch is, it's about getting the appropriate value and dollars for what you bring to the organization, so the opportunities you can create. And that's where if you shift to that mindset, you start to see how it becomes sort of infinite in a way, because depending on the organization, depending on their needs at that exact time, will change the amount of dollars that they are willing to pay. So, number one tip when you walk into an interview and a negotiation for salary: be bold, put it on the table. That's my number one tip. You need to put your value on the table. You need to request that number that you know in your heart of hearts is what you're worth. And so if you don't, and if you beat around the bush, if you don't put it out there, if you don't, right from the beginning, consistently set the expectation that this is the salary that you are expecting, that you're seeing in the market, that is your worth, that you would like for this role. So first tip, be bold, put it out there. There's no point sending mixed messages to the universe, to the employer, to the recruiter about what you want. So that obviously then triggers a number of things. How do you know what you're worth? And obviously there are a huge amount of resources online to establish your worth. So obviously competitor offers, market trends, speak to people in the same similar role, and then look at what your life experience and your sort of IP or your intellectual property brings to that. And then also in your gut, trust your gut. Your gut will tell you a lot about what you know is the right number and what you know is appropriately not the right number. Either it's too low or too high in some cases, because the last thing you want to do is walk into a job, accept an offer, and the offer's too low. You'll feel resentment, you'll feel frustration, you'll feel anger against that employer and against that role, and to be honest, you probably won't put your all into it. Or further down the line, 6 months down the line, you will be looking for a new role that appropriately aligns with your value. The opposite of that is that you accept a role and you negotiate a salary that is too high. In some cases, this can cause individuals to take on too much stress, feel pressure, and to be out of their depth. Now, I am all for one for taking jobs and saying yes to opportunities, so I don't necessarily think too high is too much of an issue. The only problem is if you agree to do things that are completely without your realm and are not, you've actually lied in terms of what your value is, in terms of what you can bring to the organisation to get that salary. So just being able to weight that appropriately is a really important skill. But number one tip, be bold, put it out there, early, set the consistent expectation of what you value and what you're worth. Next tip, big tip, during the interview process, this is not necessarily where we're negotiating, right? This is where we're planting the seed, and you should do consistently through the negotiation steps. And as you make it closer to the final, if people ask you the question, what salary are you expecting? Be open and be honest, and refer back to that early conversation that you've had with the recruiter or the hiring manager. As mentioned to X, I am looking for a salary of X. Simple, easy, get it out there. When you come and get the offer, that's when it's really time to negotiate. And to do that, you need to switch again from the mindset of what can I get to what can I give. And then really it's about creating your avenue of advantages. So this is a term that I've termed it the avenue of advantages, because I want people to understand that this is a story, and you can walk the employer down the avenue of advantages. At each tree during the avenue of advantages, there is a pocket of value, and you're going to unpack that value for the employer. Now, don't be dwelling for 10, 20 minutes on each point. This is supposed to be a short, sharp way, an exercise for you to articulate your value to your employer or your prospective employer, so that they can start to answer that question in their own mind: why should I pay you this salary? So that is a question that every employer is going to have, especially once you've made the request. And by walking them down the avenue of advantages and unpacking value for them, you answer that question automatically in their mind. This is great, because once you've got them answering that question, it means they can sell internally to whoever they need to get that extra budget signed off if it's needed, or that they can appropriately start to align and see how you'd fit within the organisation and why the budget you're requesting is actually appropriate. So just to give you a kind of picture, some areas and packets of value that you can bring to an organisation: it is your network, it is your inspiration, it is your aspiration, it is your ability to work with others cohesively, to drive a team forward, it's your experiences, it's your intellectual property, it's your ingenuity, it's your design thinking skills, it's your degree, it's your life experience, it's what the potential you have to do if you were to get that role, and where that might go in the future, and what you can bring to the organisation over the tenure of your employment. It's all of these things. It can be soft skills as well. It's not necessarily just hard facts: I have a degree, I have X, Y, Z, therefore I'm worth this. Definitely not. It's about being able to build psychological safety within a team. It's about being able to deliver feedback appropriately, and what that can do. It's about positivity, mental attitude, abundance, the things that the employers are looking for that they can't necessarily create. They need someone to come in and to drive that and facilitate that. That's your avenue of advantages. And by being able to walk an employer down the avenue of advantages and pause for 1 minute at each packet of information and just unpack that for the employer, by the end of that walk, mentally, they will have the story. They will understand why you are worth X and why they should be begging to employ you for X. So it kind of relieves the tension around that conversation. Okay, so we've gone from being bold, we've requested the salary, we've got the offer, we've led the employer down the avenue of advantages. Next, what's next? Right, we've got to that stage. It's crunch time. We understand why the budget's there. I think really now it comes back to consistently mentioning the fact that you've got the salary. So